right, hello there, everyone. Welcome to Mazske Finance, and welcome to another round of Knights of the Roundtable. And what I'll do is I'll introduce two other gentlemen to you. I'll let them introduce themselves, actually. First of all, Mike, go and say hi to everyone, and how can everyone find you?
Hey guys, how's it going? Mark, thanks for having me on your channel. Excited to do another one of our group table discussions. You can find me if you just look or Google Millennial Mike on YouTube, on Instagram, and I'm happy to chat with anybody.
All right, sounds good. All right, so Dominic, welcome again back to the channel. Go ahead and tell everyone hi and how they can find you.
Hey, what's going on? Dominic Costeras from the Windy City. I do have a YouTube channel, Dominic Costeras, or you can email me, costeras@yahoo.com, and I am on LinkedIn with my name.
All right, sounds good. Well, everyone watching, welcome to the channel once again. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Mike. So, Mike, go ahead and take it from here, buddy.
So we wanted to talk today about inflation. Okay, because it's one of the hot button topic issues of the day. We're hearing it left and right. Consumer price index inflation, inflation affecting things that you're buying like gasoline. Bacon is what's been peeving me. My bacon tripled in price over the last year, and I love bacon in the morning. So what I wanted to talk specifically today with a couple of these experts was how is inflation benefiting them? Because inflation really benefits you if you own real estate. So what I was hoping Mark could do real quick, Mark, if you want to start it off, is just explain to us what inflation kind of means for the layman, and then go ahead and move into how that's affecting your real estate portfolio.
Okay, sure. Well, inflation, just in Mark's terminology, because I'm just a blue-collar guy, layman terms, is prices are going up. And if you're of age where you go in stores to go shopping, you will have noticed in the grocery store, prices are up. If you're trying to buy a car, prices are up. If you're trying to buy a home to live in, prices are up. So that's what inflation is prices rising. And typically in the United States, they want inflation to run about 2%, maybe to 3%. But right now, it's 7%, 9%, 10%. Certain items might be 20 or 30%. So as a real estate investor, with my current real estate holdings, what that has done for me, it has increased the value of pretty much every rental house I own, which since I already own them, my mortgage has not changed. The amount I pay each month has not changed, but the equity in the homes that I own has increased. Because let's say, to give an example, let's say I had a house, for easy numbers, that was worth $50,000, but now it's worth $70,000. That means the value of the house has gone up $20,000. So that means my equity in the home has also gone up $20,000. All right, how's that, Mike?
That's pretty good. And what I want folks to realize, because it's a complex subject, and without giving you an entire economics class, really the value of the house is pretty constant. The problem is that the dollars you actually have become worth less and less. This is why your grandparents say to you, oh yeah, I used to go to the movie for a nickel and I would buy candy bars for a penny. It's not that the relative value of that candy bar versus the average wage of the day has changed. The relative value is pretty common. The problem is the dollar has continued to fall in value. One of the major contributing factors is that we continue to print massive amounts of new dollars. $6 trillion last year, a third of the total money supply pumped into the economy. It's having negative effects on most people, but as Mark just said, and as Dominic's going to explain, it actually benefits real estate owners. Now, Dominic, give us your take.
Yeah, again, I could say it over and over. Real estate is great in almost any market. Whether there's a housing crash, it's great. If there's a boom, it's great. A lot of people made money during the boom flipping houses. A lot of people made money when it crashed, buying it, 30 cents a dollar. And inflation is no different. Inflation is no different. I think I did a good job explaining inflation for the layman. It devalues your money. So let's just say you have, again, for easy, just to make it easy, you have $100,000. Heck, you put it under your mattress, you put it in a bank. A year from now, you might have to devalue. You still have 100,000, but it's worth probably 10% less. Remember, if the government's saying we're at 7.6, 7.7, you got to add an extra point or two. So yeah, you still have that $100,000, but it's just not what it was. Now, if you have $100,000 in good debt, there's good debt and bad debt. If you have $100,000 in good debt, like mortgages, that's going to earn you money, your debt has been devalued. Okay, your debt has been devalued. The banks do not knock on your door and say, "Hey, because of inflation, we're going to have to raise your debt." That's not how it works. They don't. Yeah, it still stays at $100,000. Now, for instance, for me, and I was just thinking about this the other day, I have well over $1 million in mortgage debt. And I ran the numbers, probably in 1 year, probably about $85,000 of that 1 million, for every million, has been devalued. So yes, while I still owe $1 million in good debt, and I'll clarify, buying something that's going to make you money, borrowing money for something that's going to make you money, that's good debt. Taking a credit card and buying stupid stuff, well, that's bad debt. So yeah, none of these banks knocked on my door and said, "Hey, excuse me, Mr. Casteras, that 3%, 4% interest you have, we're going to have to jack it up in accordance to that." So one more time, if you have money in the bank, think of it, it's being shaved, it's being devalued.
You're paying the hidden tax. Inflation is the hidden tax on the lower and middle class. So a couple things that I want to talk about. So we talked about the value of homes going up. Because dollars become worth less, it takes more dollars to buy something. And that's why in Mark's example, his $50,000 house is now worth $70,000. And in Dominic's example, his $1 million worth of debt that at the time he had it, when he first bought it, $1 million, freeze it in time, $1 million was $1 million at that point. But as inflation takes over and his debt devalues, his $1 million is now 8 or 9% less, something like $900,000. So it just becomes easier and easier to pay it back because dollars become more accessible. Now, what we haven't covered yet in terms of a bonus and a pro for inflation is rent increases. Now, this is both a negative for the renters and for the people who haven't started investing. So, Mark, go ahead and explain to us rent increases, the pros and cons.
Sure. With rent increases are normally what landlords really love. And I'll give you a real life example. I have had homes that would be renting for $800, $850 a month, which depending on where you're at in the country, that may be expensive or it may be cheap. I have a few examples where tenants have moved out. We did a little bit of work to fix the place up, clean it up, and rents are now $1,150, $1,200, $1,250 in that range. And if you go from $800 to $1,150 in 1 year, that's a $350 rent increase, which isn't a normal rent increase. So in part, that could be due to me improving the property a little bit, but a lot of it is this inflation we're talking about. Prices of everything have gone up, including rents. And there's also a housing issue, supply and demand issue. And I don't think we're really going to talk about that, but that also comes to play in this.
Right, yeah. And Dominic, if you wouldn't mind just expanding on that a little bit, you have owned homes for significantly longer than Mark. Mark's been investing for 5 years. I've been investing for 3. You've been doing this since the 90s. So you've seen rent increases through the dot-com bubble burst, the Great Recession, the flash crash when COVID started. Will you explain to us like what you've seen over 20 years of investing?
Right. And I think Mark did a great job. That rent does increase with inflation, in accordance with inflation. You can justify a rent increase. I remember when we shot our video, when you asked me about my first rental, I think it was maybe $800 or $900 back in 1998. And I'm getting $1,600 for that. Okay?
Doubled in value in 20 years. Oh, man.
And here's the beauty. I got an ARM. This was 1998. I got an ARM with that. I still have an ARM, and I'm getting like a 3.5% interest. So my note every month is about $400.
Wow.
But you know what? With Section 8, every year you can request a rent increase, and you can justify it with inflation. Look, the plumber, the electrician, he's going to have to raise the price because once he goes to a gas station, he's going to spend a little more money. So those $175 rod jobs are probably going to be $195, $200. So yeah, repairs are a little more. You go to Menards to buy this and this, they're a little more. So yeah, that you could use as justification to raise the rents.
Right, exactly. And just for those of you out there who don't know, when Dominic says an ARM, he's talking about an adjustable rate mortgage. It's an acronym, ARM. So the last couple things here. Now, we talked about how the costs to hire contractors to repair your property is going to go up, but there's a couple of other things. When you buy a property with a 30-year fixed mortgage, your principal and interest is fixed. However, your property taxes and your insurance costs are not fixed. So as the value of your property goes up, guess what the city says? The city says, we got to get ours. The state, whoever it is, whatever local ordinance, they're excited to get theirs. So I was watching a TikTok video of some guy who's extremely anti-landlord, mad that the landlord raised the rent. Now, the landlord did like a $50 increase year over year. And then he even said, and he just didn't understand it, he even said, yeah, they sent me a letter saying my property taxes went up 9%. Then he had got the value of the house, and like the increase in property taxes was more than the increase in rent. The landlord was actually giving the guy a deal. So Mark, if you real quick just cover a couple of the other negatives about inflation, like for instance property taxes and unfixed costs.
Okay, sure. Yeah, well, it's like both you guys have been saying, with inflation, everything goes up, including the price we pay to do repairs. We pay a plumber. Maybe that plumber was paying his helper $10 an hour 2 years ago, but maybe now he's paying that plumber $15 an hour, which means, is the plumber going to eat that cost, or is he going to pass it on to the person paying the bill? That's all a part of inflation, because we also have what's called wage inflation. Wages are going up. So as folks make more money, the price of products goes up, everything goes up as the dollar is devalued. Negatives are something like you were just discussing, Mike. There are tenants out there that just don't understand why the mean and nasty landlord is increasing their rent on them. They don't understand. All of us here, we're blue collar guys. I'm a retired police officer, you're a police officer, and Dominic, you're a teacher. We're blue collar guys. We cannot afford, if prices go up, if our property taxes go up, our insurance goes up. I don't think we've mentioned insurance yet. Homeowners insurance across the country, rates are going up. Repairs are going up. Wages we pay for the work being done is going up. But supplies, that plumber's pipe, that electrician buying the cable, the roofer buying the shingles, the material prices have all gone up. So all of us landlords are having to cover that cost, because as Dominic said in a previous video, as landlords, we, at a minimum, we provide basic necessities for all of our tenants. But most landlords will go above and beyond the basic necessities. But it means we're paying for it. And unfortunately, we have to pass that cost over to the tenant, because as landlords, we can't go negative. If we go negative, we're losing money. And that's not correct.
Right. Yeah. So there's a very popular thing nowadays where certain people with certain ideologies like to say, well, because something should be a basic right like food or housing, well, you shouldn't be able to charge more for it. You shouldn't be able to raise prices on it. And what you should take away from when we talk about raising rents, it's not like we're like, okay, the margin, when we buy a house, you buy it with a specific margin in mind. I'm going to look for a 15% or a 20% cash on cash return. It's not that the landlord is trying to take his 20% cash on cash return to a 40% cash on cash return. It's that you need to keep up with the rising costs of everything else, because if you don't stay profitable, well, eventually you lose money and then you go out of business and the house gets taken off the market as a potential home for someone to live in. Now, does that mean that the returns don't ever go up past what the rate of inflation is? No. In Dominic's case, right, just the pure value of housing and the rental market, took his example, doubled in rent. That happens. But usually tenants move out. When a new tenant moves in, that's the price. They can agree to it, yes or no. I think that's all I've got for inflation today. I think we pretty much covered anything. Mark, if you want to take us out.
All right, sure. Before I do, Dominic, do you have anything you want to add?
No, that's about it. You know, and the $15 an hour minimum wage crowd.
That's what we have in Seattle.
Yeah, you know what? They don't seem to get it that we're going to be back to square one because if everyone has to pay $15 an hour, prices go up. Or they're going to have to fire some employees and put in kiosks. The costs always get turned over to the consumer. Business owners, be it landlords or even the kid who has a lemonade stand, they're there to make a profit.
Right.
You know, so it's always going to get turned over. It's a little basic concept. Just doesn't compute with people who've never even run a business.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yep. Sounds good. All right. Well, gentlemen, I appreciate both you being here. Mike, I really appreciate you coming up with the topic and asking us the questions. Dominic, I appreciate you being here and all your input. And I like your baseball hat, Chicago Cubs, because I think I mentioned
That's right.
One time I lived in Great Lakes, Illinois with the Navy, and I attended a Chicago Cubs baseball game and also a Chicago White Sox baseball game. But that was a long time ago. So, all right. So for Dominic and Mike, this is Mazske Finance. I am signing out. Thanks so much for tuning in, and stay tuned for more future videos from all three of us. Thank you. Hey, one last thought here real quick. If you have any topics of discussion you want the three millionaires to discuss, just put it in the comments below. Thank you. Mazske Finance signing out.